And a lot of them have been just really resonating with me. So hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty, and I just want to say welcome to the first official episode of the Love and Stitches podcast. So just a few things up front. I know I'm going to be interrupted several times during this podcast, and this is going to be longer than my typical episodes will be because I have, some explaining I want to do in the beginning, some just introductions, and it's also been 2 weeks since I've recorded about my whips, so I have a little more to talk about. But typically I want to keep my episodes under between like 10 and 25 minutes. I'm kind of aiming for it to be the perfect like little mini podcast to watch during your lunch break. If you have been watching me on IGTV, I've done about 25-ish weeks, I think, of videos on IGTV, and those were just 10 minutes long, and I would just watch the like camera at the top to see, like, am I getting close to 10 minutes? And then I would have to stop talking. So one of the big reasons I wanted to come over to YouTube was so that I could have just a little bit more time. Oh, see, speaking of getting interrupted. Okay, so a little bit of an interruption. I don't know exactly where I was, but let's start by just saying that today is Wednesday, January 9th. It's a really nice day. It was like 60-ish degrees and sunny here in Texas, but I am going to be introducing myself probably at the beginning of every episode for a while, and kind of like releasing a little like fun, maybe it's fun fact, or I don't know, just to like get to know you, because I feel like I have found so many people that I really connect with in knitting on YouTube, and I've even been able to meet some in real life, and I think that's so cool. So we can totally be friends on YouTube. I would love to. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So I live in Texas, in the Dallas area. I am married. I live with my husband and our dog Toaster, which you can probably hear because they're like, him and our other like dog that we're watching, they are chomping on their bones right now, and it's super loud. So I hope it's not too loud. I am a teacher by day. I teach reading intervention in an elementary school, which just means that I don't have a classroom, like a classroom of students, but I instead take small groups of students to my own room and I teach them reading. So I enjoy that. I am kind of a new designer. I design knit and crochet patterns. I have some sock patterns that are knitted. I've got a shawl pattern. I've got a hat pattern. I've got a bottle cozy. I've got all kinds of different things. For crochet, I've got a bag. I've got some little school supplies. I have a granny square that I've been making. If you watched my Vlogmas, you saw me making a ton of granny squares. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Today is Wednesday, and I know you're gonna be watching this on Thursday or later, but today I launched my new like branding, and it's called Love and Stitches, and Love and Stitches is the name of this podcast. I love Love and Stitches, for lack of a better word, because it includes knitting, it includes crochet, it doesn't leave out any of the needle arts crafts or fiber crafts. So I have launched that new name by a blog post. So I'll have the blog post linked below. I also have my Ravelry project page linked below. So for any of the projects that I'm talking about today, you can click on the link to my Ravelry project page. You'll see the yarn information. I try to put in notes. I try to put the size I'm making. Just depends on the project, and you'll see a lot of information there. So hopefully that will help. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? I have a random fact for this week, and I'll have a new one next week. But my random fact this week is that I am the oldest of 4 children. So it's me, I have a brother that's 2 years younger than me, another brother that's 5 years younger than me, and a sister that is 9 years younger than me. When I was in middle school and high school, I was really into studying birth order, personalities, like how your personality is affected by birth order. And if you ever want to go down a wormhole or talk about it with me, I am super interested. I think it's fascinating. You know, we have stereotypes for the firstborns and the lastborns and the middleborns, but there's so much more to it than that. And I just find it super fascinating. So if you ever want to chat about it or go down a wormhole, you should totally Google birth order personalities. Okay, let's get started with some knitting. I'm feeling kind of frazzled because I am. Today was the first day of school, but I have knitting. I have 2 weeks worth of knitting and I would love to share it with you. Dog. Toaster, get down, buddy. Oh my gosh, he is looking out the window right now because we have the blinds all the way up. But let's talk about finished objects. So I have a beautiful shawl that I finished this week, and I will have the names. I'm gonna put the names at the bottom of the screen and try to put the pattern, the names of the pattern and the designer. But then if you want to find out like all the yarns, go ahead and just click on my Ravelry project page below. You're getting me real and uncut. So this, let me just show it to you. Yeah. This is the Lo Re Mi shawl, and it's by Webster Street Knittery, who is Jen Peck. And she designed this for Lauren of Lolo Did It's Advent, like her Advent calendar with yarn. They also had some patterns, and this was one of the patterns. So as you can see, it's just a lovely garter stitch with a little bit of lace. I used a mini pack from October House Yarns. So it kind of went from like, I don't know, what would you call this? Raspberry to like berry to lavender. I'm bad with color. Another lavender, a gray. Oh no, actually this was not in the pack. I put this gray in, and then this really light pink that pretty much matches the main color that I chose, which was Suburban Stitcher's Birthday Live color in Gold Stellina. So it's these garter ridges here. That's that Birthday Live color, but it's a really great shape. I was wearing it even before I blocked it. It's blocked now, but I just kind of put the triangle in the middle, and then I like to wrap the longer side around and under, and then this side over. Where's that longer side? There we go. And then I just kind of like fluff it and adjust it, and it is a really pretty, really wearable shawl. So again, that's the Lo Re Mi shawl by Jen of Webster Street Knittery. Oh, okay. I also have, oh my gosh, I'm so tangled. Okay. I've sort of finished this, but I'm still gonna talk about it. So I have just about finished my Christmas stocking. I'm so happy. So it's still wet. Like it smells like wet wool, which turns a lot of people off, but to me it's like, oh my gosh, I've almost finished this project. So the ends are all woven in except for one, because I'm gonna use that one to help me attach the I-cord. So here's the one that's been finished for ages, since the summer. This is Steamer Train by Ursula Almeida, who is She Thinks She Can Designs. And here's the front of it, there we go. And this one's been done forever. And this one is for my husband. And I picked out this one for myself. And this one is called Snowy Mountains by the same designer, She Thinks She Can Designs. And while I was at school today on my lunch break, I made, here it is, I made the I-cord that's gonna be the hanger. So all I have to do is attach and then weave these ends in. And then it really is done. So I'm counting it as done, even though I might not do this tonight. But another finished object that I'm so happy to have done. I had some problems. I've had some knitting problems this week. I've got another one coming up. So if you are going to make these stockings by She Thinks She Can Designs, what you will need to know is that the heels are different. Like the way they're actually written in the pattern, gives different stitch counts. I double checked, I triple checked because I thought I had done something wrong on one of them. So you can see this one's a pretty short little heel, and so is this one because I fixed it. But when I first did the heel on this one a few nights ago, I had way too many stitches. The heel was huge. It was not gonna match this one in any way. So what I did to fix it, because this is an afterthought heel, is I took all the stitches back and put them back on the 2 needles for like that gap opening. And then you can see it here. Do you see how there are more rows here than right here? So I did I guess kind of a Kitchener. Yeah, I did a Kitchener on 20 stitches to go in on this side. And then I did the same thing on that side. You can see it, you're a knitter, you know. I don't think anyone else is gonna be able to notice, but I did a Kitchener. So then I had the correct number of stitches to match this other stocking. So it wasn't that it was hard, I was just frustrated because I was almost done with the heel. And my husband told me, just keep going, it doesn't matter. But it did matter to me. I wanted them to match because they pretty much match like almost exactly. Like they're a little different, but I think that's more an account of knitting one in the summer and knitting another one like 4 months later, and just a tension difference. The designer did, oh, sorry, my dog hit the tripod. The designer did such a good job of making these 2 stockings, these 2 different patterns, so like the same aesthetic, but different, and I love that. And so I really hope that she has more. But just a warning that the heels were different. So maybe she picked, for the second one, she picked one she liked better. I'm not sure, but now I know. Okay, I also have a half finished object, and this is kind of another knitting attack. Sometimes I just can't even believe the things that I do. And it's funny because when I used to work in a yarn shop, and I helped people a lot, like sort out their knitting mistakes, and they would say, you never make mistakes. And I was like, no, I make so many mistakes. Like you couldn't fathom how many mistakes I make, but I fix them because I know how, because I've done it. So if you're a knitter that thinks I'm terrible because I keep making mistakes, it's just knitting and it's just yarn. And even if you don't know how to fix it like the fastest way, you can always rip it out. It's just knitting. Some mistakes are not as easily undone. But I have a half finished object, and it's a sock. This yarn is Lolo Did It Helping Hippos. This yarn, I can't even pretend that I remember what it is, but it's sparkly. I am using these socks to do a tutorial on my blog, which will be coming up probably next week. So I'm just kind of revealing, like, you know, how I do my toe. I do a fish lips kiss heel. That's not none of this is a secret, but I always talk about that. And then I don't know what I was thinking when I did this. This leg is pretty short, which is kind of how I do my legs because I get tired of knitting them and I want to be done. So I got like a wild hair and I did a 3x1 ribbing. So I'll do a different ribbing on my socks depending on my mood. Like I might do a 1x1 rib, I might do a twisted 1x1 rib, or I'll do a 2x2. That's about as crazy as I get. So I did a 3x1, which is not the most practical. I think it looks nice, but it's not gonna like cling very well. But I thought I'd try something different. That was what I was in the mood for. So I have a second sock. And on my second sock, I'm pretty close to done. I'm on the ribbing. But if you are looking closely enough, you might notice something. So I was knitting on this today. I was knitting in the car on the way home. The traffic was terrible. So I was sitting at a lot of red lights. And if I'm at a red light, I think it's okay to knit because I am watching the light. I don't have to look down at this. So I'm knitting and I'm kind of like a little bit smug because I'm like, oh, I'm getting so much knitting done on my car ride home because traffic is horrible and at least I can be a little bit productive. And then all of a sudden I go, knit 2, purl 2. What? I think I'm doing the wrong ribbing, and indeed I am. So this sock is gonna have to be taken back a few rows, which is fine, I can fix it. So I did knit 2, purl 2 on this and knit 3, purl 1 on that one. So I'm gonna have to fix this, and then it's probably not gonna get finished for a while because I need to save the rib and the bind off of this to take pictures. So I have to wait for daylight and I have to be home in order to do that. So I just felt really silly when I'd been knitting on this ribbing. I started it yesterday and then I was knitting on it today, and then it all of a sudden hit me like, that doesn't match the other sock. What are you doing? Anyway, I have a couple works in progress. Oh, one is over here. This one I'm just gonna show quickly. I am working on a design. I'm not 100% sure if it's fleshed out yet, but it's gonna be a hat. I've got spin cycle and some mohair. You can see I've got fun little twisted stitches in there. I'm not 100% certain on this yet, so I haven't decided when I'm gonna release it, if I'm gonna release it, if it's gonna be exactly the same. But I've got this really fun spin cycle yarn that is called either Bears and Beats or Beats and Bears, like The Office. Yeah, Beats and Bears. And then I have a mohair that is like 12 years old from my stash. I have so much of this Crystal Palace mohair yarn. I have been trying to get rid of it. So I keep designing stuff with mohair in it. But yeah, anyway, that's a design. I'm not 100% happy with it, but I've been working on it. I'm gonna work on it a little bit more and see how I feel. Something that I have been loving is a sweater. Now, this sweater, if you have watched my Instagram videos, you've seen it before, probably back in the summer, because I keep pulling it out for a short period of time and then not working on it. But this is going to be done this year. It's only January, so I can totally do that. But this is the Canyon cardigan by Devin Ventre of she's Knitting McPurley. If you don't know her right away, you probably know her Gigi cardigan. Susan B. Anderson has worn the Gigi cardigan, I feel like, in different photos and at events, and that, Devin is the designer. So yeah, I've been doing some garter stitch goodness. I really love it. I did so much of this while we were traveling over my Christmas break. The yarn is Suburban Stitcher. I think it's just her sock base, and the colorway is Cinder. So that's my last project. But I have to say something about Diane, because she has an amazing podcast, and she's been dyeing yarn for a few years. She's got quite the following. And last year she vended at DFW Fiberfest, and that's when I got this yarn, and felt pretty good about myself for casting it on in May, and then here we are. But I got to interact with Diane. You know, it's always super cool when you get to meet someone that you've seen on YouTube and you've like admired their yarn. And on her podcast this week, she talked about me, and I was like flabbergasted. All of a sudden, like I went to bed one night and I woke up the next morning and I had all these notifications from YouTube, new follower, new comment. And I'm like, I didn't post anything. What's happening? Is this like spam? But it was Diane. She had mentioned me on her podcast. So I just have to say, thank you, Diane, from the bottom of my heart, and everyone who has found me from watching Diane's video. Thank you so much. I don't think I can express how much it means that you took the time to watch my video, and also like that you like it. I have had people comment on my video, like just the kindest things. They went out of their way. They didn't have to say anything. They don't even have to hit like. They watch it and they like it, and that's enough. but they've commented. And then I've even had people who have taken the time to privately message me on either Ravelry or private message on Instagram. And you know that they did that with no intention of, oh, sorry. They did that with no intention of like, they weren't thinking of themselves, they were thinking about me, and they were just doing it to say something kind to me. So thank you, Diane. Thank you, everyone who's following me. Hopefully in, I don't know, a couple years, you can say, I was watching her from the beginning and I learned about a new podcast from her. I've got really big dreams. So I wanted to talk about one more thing before I wrap up today. And I think I might make it under 30 minutes. But that is this book right here by Clara Parks. It's called A Stash of One's Own. I requested this book for Christmas and I got it, which is really awesome. It's really easy to get from Amazon, so there's no excuse. If you want to read it, I'm sure you can get it at the library too, but if you want to read it and you want your own copy, there's no excuse not to. But we have recently moved and I'm sitting right now in my yarn room, and I feel like the luckiest person in the world that I get to have a yarn room. But I'm working on organizing it. And with that, I'm kind of looking at my stash with a different perspective. So this book could not come at a better time. There are super celebrated authors, designers, dyers that write in this book. It's a series of like short stories. And a lot of them have been just really resonating with me. So I wanted to read just a very small part. And let me see. You know how when you like I read a lot in front of other people because I'm a teacher, but when you have to read like to adults, don't you always like mess up? Okay, so this is from the book A Stash of One's Own by Clara Parks, but this particular section is by Anna Maltz. And she, I believe, I did read this part, but it's been about a week. I think she's a designer, possibly. But she talks about her stash and like loving her stash. So let me read this to you. Anna says, "My stash is both a diary and a sketchbook, not stored in words and pictures, but in color and texture. I have rarely bought yarn without having a plan for what it would become. Seeing it again triggers a mental catalog of ideas. That may not be what it eventually becomes, rather it's a sketch, a rough idea. What yarn becomes can change. Even after it's knitted, it can be undone. Once it has been knitted, it carries with it additional memories. The diary of its creation gets written as you go along, augmented by the adventures and trials and tribulations encountered as it is being worn. Words aren't the only way to record such things, though they may be an easier way to share them." So I was just thinking about, when I was reading that, I was thinking about my goals for the year, and I am not creating knitting goals that are as strict. I'm not highlighting specific patterns. I'm not saying, except for sweaters, I want to knit 6 sweaters. I'm not saying this many, this pattern, at this time. I want to see what comes out, what's new, what's exciting, what am I feeling? And I even have some yarn wound for a specific project that I haven't started in a year. And you should not leave yarn caked for a year. That's like way too long. But I'm thinking, I don't have to make what I originally intended for it. This yarn is telling a story. It can speak to me and I can make whatever I want. And maybe you already feel that way, but I'm really regimented and I like to stick to what, like my own personal goals, I like to stick to them. So yeah, I'm hoping to have fun this year. I'm gonna be designing some new things coming out in a couple months because I need to work on them first. But yeah, I'm just really excited. So I hope you have enjoyed the very first episode, and I will have more to come, hopefully without the sun going down on me while I'm recording. But thank you so much for watching. Have a great one.